Hello and welcome to a continuation video of our previous video on advanced filtering. I want to talk to you about a new type of filtering with the filter function as part of the dynamic arrays series of functions in Excel. So if you did not come from the previous video, what we talked about before was using advanced filtering to do multiple criterion filtering all at once and copy it to a new location. So for example, if I take this data set where I'm looking at construction. Okay, so in this data set of construction, we've got residential, we've got commercial, we've got government, and all these other things that tell us what's happening in that construction set. But we're only interested in residential and commercial between June 1st and June 30th, so basically the month of June. So with advanced filtering, I can go to data and I can go to advanced, and I have the ability to filter this data set by this criteria range, like so, and I can copy it to a new location. So for example, I can copy it down here. And if I do everything correctly, it's going to automatically put that down there. Okay. Now watch my original data set. So if I jump up here and I sort it, and then I go down here, notice that hasn't changed. And if I go up here again and I delete it, a row, right? And I go down here, that still hasn't changed, right? And I deleted row. Let's delete one more just so you can see. So we'll delete this residential, boop, like so. See, that's still down there? So basically, when you use advanced filtering, whatever it copies to is pretty much static. So this is just literally copying and pasting the data that you selected, pops it right in, there you have it. So it's handy for what it is, but it doesn't give you a lot of dynamic capabilities. And that's where we want to talk about dynamic arrays and the filter function. And that's kind of the intro into dynamic arrays in Excel. So let's talk about what that is. So this has already been defined as a data table. So because it's a data table, it's already got a range name attached to it, and the range name is called construction project. Okay. So because this entire set of data here, this table is named construction project, here's what I have the ability to do if I'm just working with dynamic arrays. So I can jump down anywhere, and if I start typing and I go to construction project, because I gave it a range name, it automatically, dynamically gives me this data set, right? So it took the reference, it went back to the original construction project, and it gave me this data table, right? Notice the organization. It's sorted in descending order, okay? Now watch this. So what if I didn't want it in descending order, and I want to change that to ascending order? Well, I can sort this. See, that's now 1 to 20. This is now 1 to 20. It changed dynamically. Additionally, if I go up here and I delete row 9, that first record is completely gone. Now we want that, so let's put it back, okay? And one other thing with just beginning dynamic arrays, see it pop in when I did that? See it update? And we'll take that away, is a common error that we get when we work with dynamic arrays, a common error. So let me show you what that common error is. The common error you get with dynamic arrays is a spill error. I get it all the time. People talk to me about it all the time. They go, I got a spill error. I don't really know what that is. Let me show you how that happens. Okay. So say I try to reference that construction project again. Looks fine, right? Boom, spill error. How did I get that spill error? Well, let's just click it and see. So when you have a dynamic array, and let me put it down at the bottom so you can see it. So I'll put it down here as well. When you get a dynamic array, Excel denotes that dynamic spill or the dynamic filling of an array of data with this blue outer border. You see right there, right? So we'll just keep that there. So if I jump back up here, when I try to do construction project, it gave me spill. And if I click it, see that dotted line, that outer border? So what it's telling you is it tried to do the spill, or it tried to do the dynamic fill of data, but it can't because the cells that it's trying to fill into already have things in them, okay? So there's already stuff here. So because there's already stuff here, it's not letting you do it, because if you spill here, it's going to overwrite what's already there. So that's how you get the spill error, okay? Just dynamic arrays 101. Okay, so back to that filter function I was telling you about. So you know that advanced filtering can take multiple criterion, and it can either filter in place or copy it somewhere else. You can do that same thing with the filter function in Excel, but when you do that with the filter function in Excel, it's going to automatically update if your original source updates. So let me introduce you to that filter function in Excel. So the filter function in Excel is super easy. It's just filter. and it's got 3 arguments. 2 required arguments, 1 optional argument. The required arguments are array and include, and the optional argument is an error handling argument that says, well, if I don't find anything, what do you want me to do? And you can return whatever, like NA. Okay, so let's see if we can make that thing sing. So the first argument that you need to put in is your array. That's the data that you're manipulating, the data that you're filtering. So that's going to be, for us, anything in this data set excluding the column headings. Okay, now notice it's using structured references. Well, it's using structured references, or it's using range names because that was set up ahead of time. So the next thing you have to do is put in the include. This is going to be whatever you're filtering to, or the methodology or the logic you're using to filter. That's the include. And the include can get tricky. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I'm just interested in, for now, residential. So I'm going to select as part of my include, there you go, all of column B, excluding column headings. And I'm simply going to use condition, or I'm going to use a logical operator, or a comparison operator, and we'll say equals, and we'll type residential. Now notice that I had to put residential in double prime quotation marks because it is a word. If it wasn't a word, if it was a number, then I would just type the number as is, just like with if statements. Okay, so we're saying filter the data by residential, and if you don't have anything that's residential, simply return NA. And if we did that right, which we did, there's all of our residential. Easy enough, right? So what if we wanted to very quickly change this? We could. Okay, so if we wanted it to not be residential, if we wanted it to be government, we can just jump right in here and change that to government. And now we have government, right? Or commercial is what we did before. So we could say commercial. And now we have commercial, right? So see how that's dynamically changing? So now that's in its simplest form the way this works. And let's just show you what happens if it has an error. So I'm going to purposely put an extra M in commercial. Now that's clearly not going to return anything. So now it simply says NA because there was an error. Couldn't find anything. Okay. So NA, if there's an error, will return, or if it doesn't find anything, it'll return NA that way. All right. So what if we made this more interesting, right? Because in our previous example, we wanted residential and commercial. And I think a better way to say that would be residential or commercial. So what I want to show you how to do is very similar to what you would do with a database function, which is how do you relay OR logic? So I want commercial or residential when you're working with dynamic arrays. So in order to do that, you have to modify the include argument just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to make some changes, but to make it more logical for you, I'll just delete it instead of edit it, and we'll work on this include together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, first I want anything that is residential. Okay. So now what I need to do is relay some kind of logic. So what we're going to do is we're going to add parentheses around this because we say, look, we definitely want this. But then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to use OR logic. So OR logic is going to be the plus sign. And we're going to say, hey, on top of that, we want commercial. Oh, and we're missing an extra parentheses there, but it caught it for me and did it. And there you have it. So if you weren't paying attention, I was starting to get to it and I hit return too soon. So what we need to do inside each one of these clauses we're putting in, we need to put parentheses around them. Okay? And that is how you do OR logic. So now that we've completed working with OR logic in the filter function, we could try to match what we did in the prior video with advanced filtering by adding AND logic with our OR logic. And now this can get tricky, but we can definitely pull this off, right? So if you remember what we did with advanced filtering in the prior video is we had residential in the month of June and commercial in the month of June. Right now, we simply have residential or commercial. So we're going to modify this a little bit so we just have the month of June instead of all these months in here. Okay. So now this can get a little tricky, but we can pull this thing off. So here's what we want to do. So we're going to go back and look at our residential, right? And what we want is we don't just want residential. We want residential in between June 1st and June 30th start dates, right? So the way we're going to do that is we're going to add AND logic. And in AND logic, the way we do that is with the ampersand sign. So I'm going to jump right in here, and we're going to go boop with the ampersand sign. And then we're just going to start adding things in. Okay, so we're going to add AND logic. So we will start here. And we will then say, all right, inside this new include, we are going to look at start dates. Okay. And we want start dates that are greater than or equal to June 1st, 2018. Now, I referenced this, and this is going to give me a problem in just a second because the logic is already here. See that logic that's right there? So the greater than or equal to. So when I try this, it's going to yell at me. So I'm going to need to take that away from that cell. But I'm going to go ahead and complete this little include first. So now I want this and this to be together, right? So it's residential and start date of this. So I'm going to jump in here. And I'm going to add parentheses around both of these. Now remember, when I do it, it's not going to work right until I take that logic away that's right here. So I'm going to hit it and it's going to do something bad. But when I jump right up here and we take this away, we should now have residential that's just June, right? So here we have residential and it's start dates that are greater than June 1st, right? So here's our start date. This is our start date right here. So, and the start dates need to be formatted as short dates, right? So these are all start dates that are greater than June. Okay, so we've got those. So we need to fiddle with this a little bit more because as of right now, it is correct start date that's greater than June, but we really just wanted the month of June, not just greater than June. So you see we've got November in here and a few other dates. So we're going to fiddle with that a little bit more. Okay, so to make things easier, I'm going to jump up here and I'm going to take this logic out of here and this logic out of here. Now, if you're joining us from not the advanced filtering, you'll know that these were the criteria we used when we used our advanced filters earlier on. So we don't need those if we're just using these as cell references. We just want to reference June 1st here, and we want to reference June 30th. So we're going to take that comparison logic operators out of there so we can reference them up in our function. Okay, so now let's just look at our function again and see what we did. So this is where it got interesting, right? So in our include for our first little group, right, we wanted residential between June 1st and June 30th. So I used this AND logic right here, right there. And within that, I'm saying, hey, I want residential, but I want every residential that's before June 1st. So following this pattern, here's what we can do. I can grab this, and to save myself a little typing time, I'm going to copy this here. I'm going to jump right next to it, and I'm just going to add another one. So I'm going to do and I'm going to change this reference from F2 to G2, okay? And we want it to be less than or equal to G2. So now that was a lot that happened really quickly because I copied and pasted and I didn't retype it. So I want to make sure you get it right. So in cell G2, we have a reference to June 30th. In cell F2, we have a reference to June 1st. And what we're looking for are dates in between these two. So similar to what we did with advanced filtering where you have start date and start date, you're doing the same thing here, but you have to physically type a asterisk in order to relay AND logic. And if I do this right, if I look down at the bottom, now we've got residential, June 3rd, residential, June 21st, residential, June 9th, and just in the month of June, okay? So what can I do to get creative here? Well, now if I want to do that same thing with commercial, I can do that, okay? So I'm going to jump up to commercial. I'm going to jump right over here, and I'm going to use that same concept that we did, and I can actually make it really easy because it's still the same months. So if I just grab these, and save myself a little time to keep from retyping, I can jump right over here and I can plug those in. So I'm going to grab my asterisk sign to relay AND logic, and I'm going to paste these in like so, and I can take that extra one away. Now this isn't quite right, okay? It's close, but here's what we want to do. So this is all one big include right here. This whole thing is an include, and we need it to count all together. So I'm going to use parentheses here to say, hey, this is all one big include. I want you to look at all of these things together. So basically, in a way, what I've done is I've recreated advanced filtering using the filter function. In the same way I've got this set up as criterion for advanced filter where it's residential between these two dates. That's what I have up here, residential between these two dates. And here I've got commercial between these two dates, and I've got commercial between these two dates. And if I did this correctly, there you have it, my friends. So now, while we're in here, I will show you one additional thing. You have another dynamic array function that is often used with filter, and that dynamic array function is sort. So what you can do is you can use the sort function with the filter function to pre-sort the return values that the filter function gives you. So say we want it to sort, and we want it to do that based on, we'll call it start date, right? So here's our start date here. So in order to make that work, we need to know the index array column number that we want to sort by. So in this case, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we want it to sort by the 7th column. So now here's how the sort function works. Let me just show you the function on its own for a second. So there's actually two sorts. There's sort and sort by. We're simply going to do sort, and the sort function is really simple. It asks you for one argument that you got to have, and then all the other things are optional. So the argument that you have to have is array, right? So let me pull it up here. So the argument you have to have is array. So you got to feed it something in order to sort. By default, it will sort in ascending order, so smallest to largest, but you can change that from ascending to descending order by changing this right here. The other thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to tell it exactly what index number for the column it is you want to sort by. So I said 7, right? So the way this is going to work, it'll go like this. So I'm going to go to my filter function that I've just created, and I'm going to go sort, just like so. Now I skip all the way to the end, and I know this is a big old function, but we're almost home, right? It's so big that it's probably off my screen. So let me see if I can pull it down here. Okay, so I want to be in my sort function, which is here. Okay, so within my sort function, I'm going to tell it I want to sort by column 7. Okay, and if I want, I can go in and set my sort order, but we don't really necessarily need that. But that's a 1 or a 0. So for now, if I simply click OK, and I can jump over here and show you as well. So see it 1 or -1. Sorry, 1 is ascending, -1 is descending. Okay. If I leave it blank, it's going to automatically do descend or ascending order. Okay. So if I run everything and we do this correct, and I know this is a big old long function, check it out. We have now sorted in ascending order. Okay, so that was the sort and filter function, and there's a lot of ways to do what we would do here. There's a lot of pros and cons to doing this. It is you compare the filter function with dynamic arrays to advanced filtering. The big thing is advanced filtering is static, and the filter function is dynamic. You could ask yourself cost benefit, right? So this is a big old nasty function. It takes a long time to write this thing, doesn't it? Right? Like a long time to write this big old thing. So conceivably, you could ask yourself, well, maybe advanced filtering is easier. And if you don't need it to be dynamic, if you don't need it to automatically update the values, then yeah, use advanced filtering, or just use basic filtering if you get really stuck. Just another tool that will help you in your toolbox of life as you go into the world of being a business analyst. And with that, my friends, this is a pretty long video, so I will let you go, and we'll see you back in the next one to talk more about dynamic arrays.